The Diddy trial is underway. There have been opening statements, and there is now testimony in the case.
If you've been anywhere near social media this past year, you've definitely caught wind of Diddy's legal troubles. And it doesn't look like his troubles are going anywhere anytime soon. As his federal trial begins in earnest, folks who are familiar with his temper have been expecting a crash out, and reports say that he did just that. The 411 on the streets is that Diddy went as far as flipping the out on judge, jury, and even witnesses. He must think he still runs these streets. Let's unwrap this drama. The first witnesses take the stand. The trial officially popped off with opening statements on May 12, 2025, establishing the competing narratives that would frame the entire case. The courtroom was packed to capacity, and the vibe was electric with anticipation. The prosecution's opening statement came from Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, who immediately set up a stark contrast between Diddy's public image as a baller, successful mogul, and the allegations of him as a serial abuser and sex trafficker. Johnson told the jury that 3 women would testify about coercion and sexual misconduct. Combs' former girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura, a former employee, and a woman called Jane. For Ventura, prosecutors highlighted the 2016 hotel surveillance video showing Combs assaulting her, which they claimed happened after a freak-off and is central to the trafficking allegations. Johnson called the video powerful evidence of trafficking, adding that Diddy and his chief of staff allegedly tried to bribe the hotel to suppress it. Regarding Jane, the prosecution described how this single mother, who started hanging with Diddy in 2020, was pressured into repeated freak-offs, including situations where Diddy refused to wear protection and ignored her discomfort when she threw up after taking drugs. According to Johnson, Diddy controlled Jane financially by discouraging her from getting a job and paying her rent to keep her on call. Johnson warned the jury that some evidence would be hard to hear, signaling the graphic nature of the testimony and evidence to come. This approach both prepares jurors for disturbing content and emphasizes the seriousness of the allegations. In contrast, defense attorney Tenny Garagos brought a different energy in her opening statement for Diddy, acknowledging his flaws but strongly denying the racketeering and trafficking for adult activities charges. Garagos portrayed Diddy as a complicated man with personal issues, including drug use, jealousy, a different kind of sex life, and a bad temper that led to domestic violence, but not some criminal mastermind running a trafficking operation. Notably, Garagos admitted to the 2016 assault on Ventura captured on video, calling it overwhelming evidence of domestic violence, but arguing it stemmed from a dispute over a phone, not trafficking for adult activities. She emphasized that domestic violence is not the same, drawing a clear line between bad personal behavior and the federal crimes charged. The defense framed the freak-offs as part of Diddy's private, consensual sex life, arguing that being a willing participant in your own sex life is not trafficking. Garagos suggested that the women involved with Diddy were strong, capable adult women who made free choices every single day for years in their relationships with him. In a moment that had social media buzzing, Garagos addressed what has become a major talking point: the seizure of 1,000 bottles of baby oil from Diddy's properties. She admitted Diddy's love for baby oil, but argued it doesn't indicate criminal behavior, framing it as a personal preference rather than evidence of wrongdoing. Garagos suggested the trial was an opportunity for Diddy to counter a year and a half of media and civil lawsuit accusations, stating, "The story about this case can finally come out." This framing attempts to position the trial as a chance for vindication rather than a prosecution. After these powerful opening statements, the prosecution called its first witness, Israel Flores, a Los Angeles police officer who, in 2016, worked as a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles, where Diddy assaulted Ventura. Flores testified about responding to a woman in distress call at the hotel and finding Ventura with a purple eye, showing physical injury, though he noted this detail wasn't in his 2016 incident report. Flores described encountering Diddy with a devilish stare, and Ventura repeatedly saying, "I want to leave. I just want to leave." He claimed Diddy offered him a stack of cash to stay quiet about the incident, later arranging for another guard to broker a $100,000 payment in a brown paper bag for the hotel's surveillance tape. During this testimony, the jury watched the 2016 surveillance video, published by CNN in 2024, showing Diddy punching, kicking, and dragging Ventura in the hotel hallway. This moment reportedly silenced the courtroom and overflow rooms, showing its emotional impact. During cross-examination by defense attorney Brian Steele, known for representing rapper Young Thug, Flores was questioned about inconsistencies in his report, such as leaving out the purple eye observation, to challenge his credibility. Steele also suggested that the cash Diddy offered might have been for hotel damages rather than a bribe, as Flores had mentioned damages to Diddy. Flores stuck to his story, saying the omitted details weren't relevant to the report at the time. The second witness called called was Daniel Phillip, a former male escort. Phillip testified about his interactions with Diddy and Ventura, giving graphic details relevant to the freak-off allegations. He described a 2012 encounter where Ventura paid him a few $1,000s to have sex with her in front of Diddy, who wore a white robe, baseball cap, and bandana over his face while handling his business. Phillip stated that Diddy took a photo of his driver's license, which Phillip took as a threat. Over the next year or two, Phillip had multiple similar encounters with Ventura in various locations, including hotels and Diddy's and Ventura's cribs in New York. His testimony included disturbing allegations of witnessing Diddy's violence toward Ventura on 2 occasions. In one instance, Phillip testified that after Ventura delayed responding to Diddy's call, Diddy threw a bottle that missed her, then dragged her by the hair to the bedroom where Phillip heard sounds of slapping and Diddy saying, "Bitch, when I tell you to come here, you come now, not later." During cross-examination by defense attorney Xavier Donaldson, Phillip clarified that Ventura wasn't drunk or high during the initial encounter and that his mail review service prohibited prostitution, suggesting his role was professional rather than criminal. Donaldson focused on small details of the Gramercy Park encounter, such as the hotel room's layout and Diddy's exact location, trying to challenge Phillip's memory. Throughout these testimonies, Diddy appeared tense, especially during Phillip's testimony, sitting back in his chair. He wore a blue sweater and white shirt, allowed to wear regular clothes instead of jail gear, and was seen waving to his family daily. At one point, he made a heart sign to his family before leaving with U.S. Marshals, showing emotional connection. The courtroom atmosphere was charged, with overflow rooms described as wild. Spectators were loud during sexual testimony but fell silent during the assault video, highlighting the emotional impact of the evidence presented. Before court wrapped for the day, the defense objected to upcoming evidence indicating ongoing disputes. Judge Subramanian discussed handling explicit material, leaning toward letting media access footage, citing First Amendment concerns, but delaying a final ruling. These first 2 testimonies laid strong foundations for the prosecution's case, providing first-hand accounts of alleged abuse and coercion. The defense, meanwhile, began its strategy of questioning witness credibility and emphasizing consensual relationships. As the trial moved to its second day on May 13, 2025, Phillip's cross-examination continued, with Donaldson focusing on Phillip's relationship with Ventura. Phillip confirmed he felt a connection with her but denied thinking they were in a romantic relationship. When asked if he told prosecutors he was jealous of Ventura and Diddy's relationship, Phillip said he didn't recall. The third witness, Cassie Ventura, was expected to testify on the afternoon of May 13th, with major anticipation surrounding her appearance. As victim 1 in the indictment, her testimony about years of alleged physical, emotional, and sexual abuse by Diddy and coercion into freak-offs was expected to be crucial to the prosecution's case. Ventura, now 38 and 8 months pregnant, was the subject of pre-testimony discussions. The defense didn't want jurors knowing about her pregnancy, arguing it could bias them. Her husband, Alex Fine, was spotted arriving at the courthouse, suggesting personal support during this difficult testimony. The prosecution emphasized Ventura's vulnerability, noting she was only 19 when she met Diddy in 2006, got signed to his Bad Boy Records label, and dated him on and off until 2018. They alleged Diddy controlled her whole life, including her apartment, clothes, and medical records. At this point in the trial, the prosecution's strategy was becoming clear. Establish Diddy's alleged pattern of violence and coercion, using the 2016 video and witness testimonies to show force, fraud, and coercion. Meanwhile, the defense strategy focused on acknowledging Diddy's domestic violence, but arguing it's different from trafficking or racketeering, framing encounters as consensual, part of a swinger lifestyle, and accusing victims of chasing a bag. As we continue following this trial, let's take a look at the many charges that have Diddy's name all over it. The charges against Diddy. Sean Diddy Combs is currently fighting for his freedom in Manhattan's federal district court, facing charges that could have him locked up for life if the jury finds him guilty. The trial officially kicked off on May 12, 2025, after jury selection that started on May 5th, and it's being called one of the most high-stakes trials in recent memory because of Diddy's massive influence in the game and the wild allegations against him. The charges against Diddy are straight-up jaw-dropping in both what he's accused of and how long it allegedly went down. The feds have hit him with 5 serious counts. 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The trafficking charges are no joke. They come with a mandatory minimum of 15 years behind bars and could put him away for life. The racketeering conspiracy charge could also result in life imprisonment, while the transportation charges each carry up to 10 years. But what do these legal terms actually mean? The racketeering conspiracy charge basically alleges that Diddy ran what prosecutors call the Combs enterprise, essentially using his legit business empire, including including Bad Boy Entertainment, Sean John Clothing, and his other hustles as a front for criminal activity. Under the RICO Act, the same law they use to take down mob bosses, prosecutors need to prove Diddy was involved in at least 2 crimes as part of a larger criminal operation. The feds claim this enterprise was into all kinds of illegal activities, including trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, and drug distribution, dating from at least 2004 to 2024. The trafficking charges allege that Diddy used force, fraud, or coercion to make victims participate in commercial acts. A key part of these charges centers around what prosecutors call freak-offs, allegedly wild, drug-fueled sexual performances that Diddy supposedly arranged, directed, and recorded. According to the allegations, Diddy would supply victims with drugs like ketamine and ecstasy to make sure they complied, control them financially, and use threats and violence to keep them in line. The transportation charges, which fall under the Mann Act, claim that Diddy moved people across state lines for prostitution, specifically bringing women and male adult workers to different locations to participate in these freak-offs. Interestingly, Diddy's defense team has challenged these charges, arguing that the Mann Act has racist origins and that Diddy is being unfairly targeted as a black man for behavior that typically flies under the radar when it's white folks doing it. The indictments name 4 victims, with one confirmed to be Cassandra Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend of over a decade who filed a civil lawsuit against him in November 2023, claiming he abused her throughout their relationship. That lawsuit was settled mad quick, just 1 day after filing, but it seems like it opened the floodgates for more allegations and the federal investigation that led to these charges. It's important to note that Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all charges and denies everything. His defense team says the allegations are twisting consensual relationships and activities, arguing that while Diddy might have lived a different type of lifestyle than most, his actions weren't federal crimes. Now let's talk about how this whole situation started, beginning with Diddy's arrest and the events leading up to this trial. Diddy got locked up on September 16, 2024 in Manhattan after a grand jury indictment. The initial indictment accused him of running a criminal enterprise since 2008, but later indictments expanded the timeline and added more charges. In a major move, federal authorities raided Diddy's Miami and Los Angeles cribs in March 2024, seizing narcotics, guns with defaced serial numbers, over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant allegedly used during freak-offs, and dozens of electronic devices. Since his arrest, Diddy has been locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, with multiple bail requests denied despite his team offering a $50 million bond with house arrest and electronic monitoring. Judges kept saying no because they were worried about witness tampering and flight risk. A key piece of evidence in this case is a surveillance video from 2016 showing Diddy physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel hallway. This video, which CNN first dropped in May 2024, shows Diddy kicking, dragging, and throwing objects at Ventura. The defense tried to argue the video was altered or prejudicial, but Judge Arun Subramanian ruled it can be used as evidence. Another important ruling in this case allows the alleged victims, except for Ventura, to testify under fake names to protect their privacy. This decision recognizes how sensitive these allegations are and the potential for public backlash. The jury selection process for this trial was both thorough and fascinating, given Diddy's celebrity status and the high-profile nature of the case. The process started on May 5th, 2025, with about 600 potential jurors filling out detailed questionnaires about their knowledge of the allegations against Diddy, personal experiences with SA or domestic violence, views on hip-hop culture and celebrity influence, and whether they could stay fair despite Diddy's fame. Between May 5th and May 7th, Judge Subramanian, prosecutors, and defense attorneys interviewed nearly 100 potential jurors individually, asking about whether they'd seen the 2016 hotel surveillance video, their personal or family experiences with SA or domestic violence, and their opinions on Diddy's wealth and celebrity status. This one-on-one questioning, called voir dire, is crucial for ensuring an impartial jury in high-profile cases. Several potential jurors got dismissed during this process, including a woman who watched the documentary The Fall of Diddy and called the surveillance video damning, a publishing executive at Simon & Schuster, because they're about to drop a memoir by Al B. Sure, who's been critical of Diddy, and a man whose wife, a lawyer, had beef with Diddy from a court interaction back in the 90s. The final phase of jury selection, originally set for May 8th, got pushed to May 12th because they were worried jurors might get cold feet over the weekend, potentially backing out of such a high-profile case. This delay shows how tricky it is to seat a jury for such a publicized trial. Attorney Joanne Lee Molinaro shared her thoughts on the trial.
You know, one of the things that the prosecution has done, I think very well in this case, is they've held a lot of things very, very close to the vest. And that's because they don't want to show their cards, not just to defense, but to the jury, to the public, to all of us who are kind of watching this every single day. And so it's a little bit unclear how this is all going to play out. One thing we did hear last week was that they are missing one of their crucial witnesses. There are potentially 4 witnesses that we were supposed to hear from, and they can't seem to find one of them. So that will also play out over the next several weeks.
On May 12, 2025, they finally locked in the jury 12 people and 6 alternates. The jury has 8 men and 4 women with ages ranging from 24 to 74, representing a mix of folks from Manhattan, the Bronx, and Westchester. Their jobs are all over the place too. There's an actor and massage therapist, a medical scientist, an architect, a middle school gym teacher, a graphic designer, a UN counterterrorism office administrator, and others. What makes this jury selection particularly interesting is that several jurors admitted they'd seen the 2016 surveillance video of Diddy assaulting Ventura, but claimed they could still be fair. For example, one woman described the video as shocking and scary, but said she would consider the full context at trial. Throughout the jury selection, Diddy was actively involved, talking with his attorneys and showing approval or disapproval of potential jurors through nodding or shaking his head. His involvement shows how important the jury selection process is to his defense strategy. Attorney Lee shared her thoughts as well.
The jury is going to notice everything from the kind of clothes that Combs is wearing to who is sitting in the courtroom with him to the kind of conversations and whisperings that are going on. All of that goes into the, sorry to say, the theatrics of a jury trial.
Moving on to the bigger picture of this case, including the numerous civil lawsuits against Diddy, the public and media response, and the potential cultural impact of this trial. Civil lawsuits and the bigger picture. While the criminal trial focuses on 5 federal counts, we gotta understand that Diddy is also facing a tsunami of civil litigation that's been building since Cassie Ventura dropped her bombshell lawsuit in November 2023. Diddy currently has over 60 civil lawsuits on his plate alleging SA and misconduct, with some allegations going all the way back to 1991. These civil cases are separate from the criminal trial, but add crucial context for understanding the full scope of what Diddy's being accused of. The flood of civil lawsuits kicked off with Ventura's November 2023 filing, which claimed and abuse throughout their relationship. What's wild is this lawsuit got settled just 1 day after filing, with no admission of guilt by Diddy. However, when the 2016 hotel surveillance video dropped in May 2024, it seemed to back up key parts of Ventura's claims, leading to Diddy issuing a public apology, which he later took down, calling his actions inexcusable. After Ventura's lawsuit, dozens more accusers came forward with their own civil claims. Attorney Tony Busby is repping over 100 plaintiffs, while attorney Andrew Van Arsdale represents 37 civil plaintiffs and claims to have identified over 400 potential claims through his Reciprocity Industries call center. This crazy number of allegations suggests a pattern of behavior spanning decades. Some notable civil cases include Kirk Burrows, February 2025, claims Diddy forced him to witness sexual acts and blackballed him from the music industry. Kendra Haffney, February 2025, alleges Diddy drugged and forced himself on her during a 2007 reality show after party. An amended lawsuit claiming Diddy and Jay-Z the 13-year-old in 2000, which both denied. These civil cases will keep moving forward regardless of what happens in the criminal trial, presenting major financial and reputation risks for Diddy, even if he beats the criminal charges. Diddy's legal squad has dismissed many of these civil lawsuits as money grabs. During opening statements in the criminal trial, defense attorney Tenny Garagos suggested that accusers, including Ventura, were just trying to get paid, calling the lawsuits a money grab. In previous statements, Diddy's representatives have called the civil plaintiffs individuals looking for a quick come-up. This defense strategy of questioning accusers' motives has sparked major debate online, with social media discussions showing mad victim blaming, especially toward Cassie Ventura. With so many civil lawsuits against Diddy, some folks on the internet are questioning if all these accusers can be legit, suggesting that the sheer number of claims means some must be capped. But others clap back that the scale actually shows a pattern of abuse enabled by Diddy's power, a view supported by legal analysts who point out the consistency of allegations across decades. The criminal trial and all these civil cases have generated crazy public interest in media coverage, especially on social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter. The trial's wild details, like the allegations of freak-offs with drugs and male sex workers, have fueled some sensational coverage. Major news outlets have been dropping detailed updates, Owen highlighting the graphic testimony, like Daniel Phillips' descriptions of witnessing Diddy's behavior toward Ventura. Specific details, like the seizure of 1,000 bottles of baby oil allegedly used in freak-offs, have become total meme material online. During jury selection, they had to check one potential juror's reaction to a comedian's social media post about baby oil, showing how these details are everywhere in the culture. This mix of jokes and shock shows how people can sometimes treat serious allegations like entertainment, which can distract from the gravity of what's being alleged. Legal experts and commentators are saying this case could set a precedent for how we deal with misconduct by high-profile figures, especially after the No Me Too movement. Some observers have pointed out that while many industries faced a reckoning over misconduct in recent years, the music industry has largely dodged that bullet. Major artists and industry figures are reportedly watching this trial closely, though many have stayed quiet publicly. This silence has been noted by observers as potentially showing a culture of see no evil, hear no evil that has allowed alleged misconduct to keep happening in the industry for decades, while we're keeping it 100 with facts from legit sources. We should mention that the trial has also generated conspiracy theories and speculation about other celebs potentially being caught up in Diddy's alleged activities. For example, Jay-Z was named in a lawsuit alongside Diddy, though he's denied the allegations. Additionally, lawyer Tony Busby, who represents numerous accusers, has claimed to have a long list of names, fueling speculation about a wider network involved. These theories have been amplified by documentaries like The Downfall of Diddy, which suggest a broader industry cover-up. However, it's important to separate verified facts from the rumor mill, especially in a case with such serious allegations. The trial has also got people reflecting on hip-hop's culture of power and accountability. Online forums and social media posts discuss how Diddy's legacy, once celebrated with awards and a key to New York City, is being completely reevaluated. Some argue that the case exposes systemic issues within the culture, while others defend Diddy's contributions, creating a split in how people view his influence on the game. From the perspective of legal experts, this trial is a unique challenge for both prosecution and defense. The defense is fighting an uphill battle in trying to undermine accusers' credibility, especially with corroborating evidence like the hotel video and physical items from the raids. The racketeering charge, which alleges a sprawling criminal enterprise, is particularly broad and difficult to fight against. The prosecution, meanwhile, has to prove that Diddy's actions were more than just toxic relationship behavior or unconventional bedroom preferences. They must show a pattern of coercion and exploitation that rises to the level of federal crimes. This line was highlighted during opening statements when defense attorney Giragos admitted domestic violence, but argued it was different from trafficking. Looking beyond the courtroom drama, the Diddy trial raises deep questions about power, consent, and accountability in celebrity culture. The case highlights tensions between personal freedom and criminal accountability, raising questions about where consensual activities end and coercion begins. The outcome of this trial could have far-reaching effects on how sexual misconduct allegations are handled in the entertainment industry and beyond. A conviction would potentially embolden more victims to come forward with similar allegations against powerful figures, while an acquittal might reinforce perceptions that wealth and fame can shield individuals from consequences. For the music industry specifically, this case represents a potential turning point. Unlike Hollywood, which faced a major reckoning during the height of the Me Too movement, the music industry has largely skated by without that level of scrutiny. The Diddy trial, with its high-profile nature and serious allegations, could change the game, potentially leading to broader accountability for misconduct within the industry. The case also brings up important questions about race and justice. Diddy's defense team has argued that he's being unfairly targeted because of his race, pointing to the Mann Act's historically racist origins and claiming that similar prosecutions rarely happen with white defendants. This argument touches on long-standing concerns about disparities in the criminal justice system, though it's worth noting that the prosecution team is diverse and that Judge Subramanian is the first judge of South Asian descent in the Southern District of New York. Looking ahead, the trial is expected to continue for several more weeks, with testimony from additional witnesses. Now, if convicted on all counts, Diddy faces a potential life sentence, with mandatory minimums of 15 years on trafficking charges. An acquittal would shy focus to the civil lawsuits, which would keep moving forward. Diddy's team is confident they can prove these were consensual relationships, but regardless of the trial's outcome, the civil lawsuits, potentially exceeding 400 claims, will continue, posing major financial and reputation risks. As the trial continues to unfold, the world watches to see how Diddy's has just been placed on suicide watch in the same prison that Epstein killed himself. Am I tripping? Wait, that's not even the wildest part. Leaked footage straight from Diddy's cell just hit the internet, and the powerful people that Diddy blackmailed with secret sex recordings will be getting desperate right about now. So is this suicide watch going to lead Diddy to kill himself? And is the judge in on it too for refusing Diddy bail? Let's find out. Diddy on Secede Watch. It's a new day, and you already know what that means. Another chapter in the wild Diddy saga. But this time, it's not just another shocking headline. We're talking about the harsh reality behind bars. The same man who once ruled from sprawling mansions is now being put under the microscope, slapped with a suicide watch at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's that serious. Now, for those who don't know, a suicide watch inside a correctional facility is no joke. It's when guards or mental health staff keep tabs on an inmate round the clock because there's a real fear they might harm themselves. And this isn't your regular lock 'em up scenario. When someone's on suicide watch, the entire environment changes. We're talking about a cell stripped down to the basics. Belts, gone. Shoelaces, gone. Even bed sheets get pulled because, well, they could be used as weapons. Sometimes the walls themselves are padded to make sure there's no way to turn the cell into a danger zone. Inmates on this type of watch don't even get the usual meals. Nope, they're served finger foods to avoid choking hazards, and their clothing is reduced to special smocks designed to prevent self-harm. The guard on duty is either keeping a constant eye on them or checking in at random times to avoid any predictable gaps. And if things escalate, the facility might even resort to restraints or, in extreme cases, chemical sedation, just to keep the situation under control. One big name that found himself on suicide watch was Jeffrey Epstein. Back in 2019, after his arrest, Epstein was slapped on suicide watch after he was found with bruises around his neck. But here's the wild part. Just 6 days before his death, they took him off suicide watch and threw him back into the special housing unit at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. Now he was supposed to be monitored closely, but we all know how that went. On August 10th, 2019, Epstein was found dead, having hung himself with a bedsheet, all while security protocols just seemed to disappear into thin air. Now, fast forward to Diddy. His own suicide watch came after being hit with back-to-back bail denials by 2 different judges. This left a lot of people shocked, especially since his lawyer came out swinging with confidence that bail was in the bag right after his arrest.
Do you think he'll be released? I'm going to fight like hell to get him released, and he should be released.
But that confidence faded fast. On September 17th, just a day after his arrest, Diddy faced Judge Robin Tarnofsky, pleading not guilty to heavy charges like racketeering and sex trafficking. Diddy's team wasn't playing. They threw out a $50 million bond offer, putting up his $48 million Miami mansion and his mom's crib as collateral. Even the family's passports were handed over. His lawyers made it clear, Sean Combs doesn't run from a fight. Never has, never will. But no matter how much Diddy's legal team threw on the table, Judge Tarnofsky wasn't swayed. She shut it all down, citing Diddy as a serious flight risk and a potential threat to the integrity of the case. With the weight of charges like racketeering and sex trafficking, the court wasn't willing to take any chances. The prosecutors came with strong arguments. They presented evidence showing that in the months leading up to his arrest, Diddy had reached out to both victims and witnesses, pushing his narrative and attempting to influence their testimonies. That behavior set off major alarms in the courtroom, and the judge wasn't about to let it slide. But Diddy's squad wasn't done. It came back swinging with an appeal, this time facing Judge Andrew L. Carter. They sweetened the pot. Diddy agreed to weekly drug tests, limited visitors to just family and caretakers, and said he'd keep a log of everyone stepping into his Miami mansion. And get this, no female visitors allowed, except for family. It was a bold strategy, showing how desperate he was to get out, but it still didn't cut it. Judge Carter wasn't buying it. Even with all those promises on the table, the court wasn't convinced. They decided that Diddy was still too much of a threat to let loose. His history of violence and well-documented anger issues weighed heavily in the decision. So when that appeal got shot down, Diddy had no choice but to pack it up and head to the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn. And let's just be real, MDC is far from 5-star accommodations. This spot is known for its violence, filth, and even death, making it one of the toughest facilities in the federal system. Built in the 1990s, MDC Brooklyn has had nothing but problems ever since. Severe overcrowding, inmate violence, and a crumbling infrastructure have plagued it from the start. Conditions at MDC are brutal to say the least. Inmates are often locked down for long stretches, stuck in their cells for days on end, unable to shower, exercise, make phone calls, or even have visits. And don't even get started on the staff. There aren't enough officers to keep the place secure, let alone handle the constant emergencies that pop up in such a chaotic environment. Violence and death aren't just rare occurrences here, they're almost the norm. Just look at June 2024, when an inmate named Uriel White got stabbed to death. A month later, Edwin Cordero lost his life in a brawl. And if that wasn't enough, suicides are happening way too often, with at least 4 inmates taking their lives in the past 3 years. But it doesn't stop there. The staff at MDC aren't exactly squeaky clean either. Over the past 5 years, a handful of them have been caught taking bribes, sneaking in contraband like drugs and cell phones, and pretty much turning the place into even more of a circus. As if the violence and staff corruption weren't bad enough, the building itself is falling apart. Back in 2019, a week-long power failure left inmates freezing in their cells and sparked unrest. And don't even mention the COVID-19 COVID-19 pandemic. MDC made headlines for being the first federal facility with confirmed cases and for its complete failure to handle the crisis with proper health measures. Even judges have been throwing shade at the Bureau of Prisons for letting things get so bad at MDC. Some judges have flat out refused to send people there, knowing the conditions are just that bad. Lawyers for Diddy have highlighted the horrific nature of the jail in their appeals to keep him out, citing the facility's violent environment, neglect, and unfit living conditions. But none of that worked because Diddy's still there and he's been slapped with suicide watch. They haven't officially given a reason, but the theories are flying. Some sources are saying it's because Diddy's in a state of shock. His mental state is all over the place, especially since being thrown into a prison environment is a drastic change from the lifestyle he's been used to.
This is his version of 9/11, so to speak. There's very few people can come back from that. And so going from living this life of luxury to self-surrendering to prison, thinking that you might make bail is a dangerous thing for Diddy.
For someone who's spent decades at the top, the idea of being locked up with no bail has to be devastating. The uncertainty about what comes next only adds to the pressure, which could be why he's on suicide watch. But it's not just the prison life messing with his head. The details from the indictment going public are probably weighing on him too. And let's be real, those details are wild.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
Diddy's indictment lays out a series of grave allegations and the evidence prosecutors have gathered over years of investigation. The charges are not only shocking, but also paint a picture of a man who allegedly used his immense power and influence to exploit and manipulate others for his own gain. One of the most serious allegations is that Combs has been involved in sex trafficking since 2008. Prosecutors claim that he was part of a criminal organization that engaged in or attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The indictment alleges that Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. These performances, referred to as freak-offs, were allegedly directed by Combs, who often recorded them and distributed controlled substances to the victims to make them obedient and compliant. The indictment provides detailed accounts of how Combs ensured participation from the women. He allegedly obtained and distributed narcotics to them, controlled their careers, leveraged his financial support, and used intimidation and violence. Prosecutors claim that Combs used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. He maintained control over them by giving them drugs, threatening to take away financial support or housing, promising career opportunities, monitoring their whereabouts, and even dictating their physical appearance. The indictment drops some wild details about what went down during a federal raid at Diddy's crib back in March. Authorities found over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, along with narcotics, and let's just say everyone was shocked. The sheer amount of this stuff backs up the crazy rumors about those infamous freak-offs people have been whispering about for years. But that's not all. The indictment also revealed that police uncovered a stash of firearms at his spot, raising even more eyebrows.
As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced.
With all this evidence stacking up, it's no wonder Diddy is facing the fight of his life. But honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Things only get wilder when you dive into the details of the lawsuits against him. Diddy's lawsuits. One of the lawsuits that really kicked the door wide open on all the mess Diddy's caught up in came from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. This lawsuit, filed in November 2023, painted a disturbing picture of the relationship between the two, a relationship that was far from the glamorous public-facing image people saw. According to the court docs, Cassie first met Diddy back in 2005. She was just 19, a newcomer, and he was 37, already a huge name in the industry. Shortly after signing with Bad Boy Records, Cassie claimed Diddy started exerting total control over her life, making sure she couldn't break free from his grip. By 2007, the two were dating, but that's when things started spiraling. According to Cassie, what followed was years of abuse, physical, emotional, and psychological. One of the wildest and most jaw-dropping revelations from the lawsuit was about the infamous freak-offs, which were highlighted in the indictment. Cassie detailed how Diddy would hire male sex workers and force her to participate in sexual acts, while he watched, filmed, and directed the whole show. These weren't just casual encounters. The lawsuit described them them as long, drawn-out, drug-fueled sessions. Everyone involved was masked up, the drugs were flowing, and the performances were anything but consensual. Cassie claimed Diddy kept the drugs on deck: ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, you name it, using them to keep her disoriented, helping her mentally check out of these horrific situations. According to her, these freak-offs went on for years, turning into a twisted routine that left her feeling trapped in a nightmare she couldn't escape. The lawsuit didn't stop there. Cassie also detailed the repeated physical abuse she endured. She alleged that Diddy would beat her frequently, leaving her with black eyes, split lips, and serious bruising. One incident stood out. Diddy allegedly lost it when he found out she had spoken to another music manager. In his rage, he reportedly kicked her in the face repeatedly, causing major injuries. Cassie claimed she had to hide out in hotels for days, waiting for the bruises to fade before she could be seen in public again. And if that wasn't enough, one of the most bizarre accusations involved Kid Cudi. Cassie alleged that when Diddy found out she was dating Cudi in 2012, he threatened to blow up his car. Coincidentally, not long after, Cudi's car did explode in his driveway. In 2018, Cassie claimed she finally tried to break away from Diddy, but after a breakup dinner, he forced himself into her apartment and raped her. This event, she said, was the final straw, and she made efforts to completely distance herself from him. Despite the intensity of the lawsuit, Diddy and Cassie managed to settle the case just one day after it was filed. But when this lawsuit first dropped, Diddy was quick to deny everything. His legal team came out swinging, calling the accusations riddled with baseless and outrageous lies. However, that narrative took a hit when leaked footage allegedly surfaced, showing Diddy attacking Cassie in a Los Angeles hotel hallway back in 2016. Once that video hit the public eye, Diddy had to switch gears real quick. He ended up dropping an apology video. But Cassie's lawsuit didn't just get settled, it opened the floodgates. Right after her case, two more women stepped forward, each pointing fingers at Diddy for similar accusations. Joy Dickerson-Neal came out with her story, taking it all the way back to 1991. At the time, she was a college student at Syracuse University, and she alleged that after a dinner date, Diddy drugged and her. According to Joy, she left her drink with Diddy for a moment, and when she came back and drank it, things took a dark turn. She claimed that after drinking it, she felt completely disoriented, barely able to stand or walk. The situation got even worse when she later found out that Diddy filmed the whole thing and shared it around the industry. At the same time, another woman, known only as Jane Doe, stepped up with accusations that are just as disturbing, if not more. She alleged that back in 2003, Diddy and singer Aaron Hall coerced her and a friend into non-consensual sexual acts. The lawsuit details how after a night of drinking, the situation escalated. After being pressured into sex with Diddy, Hall allegedly forced himself on Jane Doe while Diddy was still present, doing nothing to stop it. This incident was described as part of Diddy's notorious freak-off culture, where women were allegedly drugged and sexually exploited in orchestrated scenarios that push boundaries way past consent. Both of these lawsuits just pile onto the growing mountain of legal trouble Diddy is facing, each one shining a light on the darker, more twisted side of his parties and alleged behavior. But none of them hit quite as hard as Lil Rod's case. In February of this year, respected music producer Rodney Jones, better known as Lil Rod, dropped a bombshell lawsuit on Diddy. In this case, Jones accused Diddy of sexual harassment and assault, turning heads across the industry and adding even more fuel to the fire Diddy's already facing. According to the lawsuit, between September 2022 and November 2023, Jones was invited to work on 9 tracks for Diddy's Love album. However, instead of maintaining a simple professional relationship, he ended up spending months living at Diddy's residences in Los Angeles, New York, and Miami, essentially becoming part of Diddy's inner circle during that time. During his time staying with Diddy, Jones claims he was repeatedly subjected to unwanted groping and touching. These incidents allegedly occurred not just in one location, but across LA, New York, Florida, and even on a luxury yacht. To make matters worse, Jones also claims that he was forced to work in Diddy's bathroom while Diddy casually walked around naked, showering in a glass enclosure for full view. But that wasn't all. Lil Rod also claims that Diddy tried to groom him into sexual activities with fellow producer Stephen Aaron Jordan, better known as Stevie J. And if that's not enough, Diddy allegedly sweetened the deal with a promise. Diddy told Lil Rod he'd pull some strings to make sure he'd walk away with the Producer of the Year title at the Grammys. But it gets even wilder. Jones claims Diddy gave him footage showing people engaging in sexual activities inside his homes. Jones believes these videos were secretly recorded through hidden cameras that Diddy had set up around his properties. And it didn't stop there. On multiple occasions, Diddy allegedly grabbed Jones's phone and started recording himself, leaving hundreds of hours of footage and audio on Jones's device. The lawsuit also includes screenshots from the footage, allegedly showing Diddy with young girls and a sex worker, further backing up the claims against him. This lawsuit was really the one that sealed Diddy's fate. It was the case that finally led to the federal raid on his house. But since his arrest, it feels like a floodgate has opened, with all kinds of crazy revelations and skeletons coming out of the closet. Revelations since Diddy's arrest. One of the biggest things to hit the headlines recently is a resurfaced interview with Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Gina Hewen, where she straight up accused him of physical abuse. Now, for those of y'all who might not know, Gina Hewen and Diddy were romantically involved starting back in the late 2010s. Their relationship was messy, full of breakups and makeups with more drama than anyone could have imagined. In a resurfaced 2019 interview, Gina didn't hold back, spilling some disturbing details about their time together. She claimed that Diddy once stomped on her stomach, making it hard for her to breathe, and that he repeatedly hit her while she begged him to stop.
He stomped on my stomach really hard, and I took the wind out of my breath. I couldn't breathe. He took my hair and was dragging me across the grass in my hair with my hair.
Gina described Diddy as emotionally abusive as well, often comparing her to his ex, Cassie, and belittling her to make her feel dependent on him.
He would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one and she's the good one.
Their relationship lasted for 5 years, during which Gina became pregnant twice. She claimed that Diddy pressured her to terminate both pregnancies.
And then I got pregnant, and he okay, just get an abortion, no hesitation.
Despite the abuse, Gina admitted that at the time, she was trying to prove she loved Diddy and wasn't with him for financial gain. She also reflected on how naive she had been during the relationship, but has since moved on and is now focused on raising her daughter. And it wasn't just Gina making waves. Another bombshell dropped when star Jonathan Oddie came forward with some wild claims of his own. Oddie, who gained attention in 2018 after a violent outburst at Trump's National Doral Golf Club in Miami, shocked everyone during his police interrogation. He claimed that he had been a sex slave to Diddy and his ex-girlfriend Cassie.
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business.
During the same interrogation, Oddie didn't stop at Diddy. He went on to accuse other big-name celebrities like Rick Ross and DJ Khaled of being part of a larger conspiracy, and even claimed they were secretly gay.
They're gay. Who? Both. Diddy and Ross and Khaled. They're all gay.
At the time, Oddie's allegations were brushed off as delusional, but now, people are definitely starting to rethink things. And it's not just Ross and Khaled getting dragged into Diddy's mess. Recently, Joe Budden got caught up too, after a new clip surfaced, supposedly showing Budden and Diddy warming up before a freak-off. In the clip, you see Joe Budden and Diddy chilling, sipping wine, and vibing to some music. Now, on the surface, it doesn't seem too wild, right? Just two guys hanging out. But with all the noise around Diddy's infamous freak-offs, folks started connecting the dots, and the clip sparked a firestorm online. One person tweeted, "I knew that was weird," talking about Budden. Another person went in saying, "All of them need to be arrested. Start at the top and work your way down." And someone else hit Joe with, "Damn, not you too." What really set people off about this viral clip is the fact that Joe Budden has always claimed he's got no ties to Diddy. Sure, they've worked together in the past, but Budden's been quick to distance himself from Diddy's mess. He's even gone as far as editing out segments from his podcast that touched on Diddy's legal drama, including the serious assault allegations. According to Budden, it was a sensitive topic, but he's made one thing crystal clear: "I've got zero ties with Diddy." For someone who's always been loud about calling out the wrongs in the industry, seeing Budden linked to anything even close to Diddy's freak-offs, that's a bad look. But that's not even the wildest thing to resurface lately. A woman has come forward again, claiming that Diddy shot her in the face during the 1999 nightclub shooting. Back in December 1999, chaos erupted at Club New York in Manhattan, with Diddy, his girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, and their crew caught in the middle of it. In the madness, Natanya Rubin was hit in the face by a bullet. Rubin's been saying for over 2 decades that Diddy was the one who pulled the trigger, even though Shine, a rapper in Diddy's crew, took the fall and served nearly 10 years for the shooting. Rubin has always insisted that Diddy was the one behind it.
And you have said since really right after the shooting that it was P. Diddy who shot you.
I said it immediately. I literally watched them pull out the guns. I've had a clear point of view. I mean, for God's sake, I got shot in my nose.
Shine, who took the fall and served time for the 1999 nightclub shooting, hasn't held back when it comes to his feelings about Diddy. He's repeatedly criticized Diddy, claiming that Diddy used his influence to dodge punishment and even flipped witnesses against him. To this day, Shine still says Diddy completely ruined his life.
Let us not lose sight of what the cold hard facts are. This was not someone who I vacationed with and who he and I enjoyed this great intimate relationship of brotherhood. This is someone who destroyed my life.
With everything going on, it's clear that Diddy's life has spiraled into pure chaos. So when you really think about it, that suicide watch he's on might not be the worst idea after all. The weight of all this mess, the lawsuits, accusations, and now public shame might just be too much to handle. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.